What is up, guys? I'm going to be giving out my full UFC 325 breakdowns and predictions, and let's get right into it. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to be able to break down these Road to UFC fighters. I haven't watched the tape on them, I don't know enough about them. And when I watch these fighters and make bets and predictions for these fighters that haven't fought in the UFC, my picks usually aren't very good, and I learned that through Dana White Contender Series, and I just like to avoid it overall and judge them based off their UFC fights. But starting with Khan Offley versus Yija. Now, I watched the tape back on this one, and I think both these guys are both pretty decent, but not very high level. Both of them are pretty solid on the feet in terms of boxing. They keep a high guard and they stay responsible. But I'm going to pick Yija here, and I'm going to pick him to win by decision. I think Yija is the more explosive striker here. I think he can land better on the feet, and we've seen Khan Offley on the feet. He's just not very effective. He's always out of range. We saw that against Santos, against Naimov, and he just gets outstruck. He's too small, even at featherweight. I think he's probably a true bantamweight. And Yija here, he's not very big, but I think he's a more explosive striker. I think both these guys are actually pretty good grapplers too. They have decent wrestling. I think it'll likely cancel out, but if I'm going to give someone the advantage, I'm going to give it to Yija. I think Yija is younger. He's more explosive on the feet, so I think he can land better, and he's probably the better grappler overall. I don't think there's going to be a finish in this matchup. Neither guy are the biggest finishers. Both of their finishes mostly come by submissions, and both of them are decent grapplers. So I see that cancelling out, and I see this being mainly a striking fight, not the best fight, but I think Yija is going to do more, and he's going to win this one by decision. Next, we got Oban Elliott versus Jonathan Mikhailov. Now, this is a good one. I'm going to take Oban Elliott in this fight. This is a very close fight, and when I was watching the tape back, I was going back and forth. It was a very tough one to predict. Now, Jonathan Mikhailov is coming off that performance against Kevin Doucette, where he was just blasting body kicks, head kicks, and he looks very impressive doing that. His kicking game looked absolutely great, and I was pretty impressed by him, and he's also a very big welterweight. But I'll be honest, his boxing didn't really impress me at all. I thought he was pretty slow. I thought that he was getting touched up with some punches at times, and I think against a better opponent, like an Oban Elliott, he could get caught with some clean punches, especially with the speed of Oban. And to be honest, Kevin Doucette, while he did look impressive in that fight, Jonathan Mikhailov looked impressive. Kevin Doucette isn't a good fighter in my opinion. He's after getting cut by the UFC, and he just is very stationary and not very good. Now, Oban Elliott is coming off that performance against Seok Ko, but honestly, that's a performance where he just got completely out-grappled. He was a massive favorite there, but I don't take much stock into that. Seok Ko is a very dominant grappler. We saw it against Phil Rowe. And Oban Elliott still has good takedown defense in my opinion. I just think Ko is a very, very good grappler. Other than that, Elliott was on quite a decent run. He was showing good grappling defense before that, showing pretty good offensive grappling ability, and he can strike. He's not a very high volume striker, but he's pretty elusive. And I think he's going to have the boxing advantage in this fight, particularly in the speed. I think he's going to be able to land shots on Mikhailov. I do think Mikhailov will have the kicking advantage. If he can get his kicks going and Oban Elliott doesn't have an answer, then Mikhailov could really start to take over. But I like the experience of Oban Elliott. He's fought a lot of guys, and I think he's a better boxer here. So I'm going to edge towards him to win by decision. I do think this one goes the distance. Neither guy is the biggest finisher. And if you look at Oban Elliott, he is quite the decisionator. And Mikhailov is quite a decision-style fighter as well. So I think this goes to decision. I think it's going to be very close. But give me Oban Elliott as an underdog here. Not a very confident pick. Next, we got Jacob Malkoun versus Torres Finney. I'm going to pick Jacob Malkoun here, but I don't feel great about it. Jacob Malkoun is a good wrestler. He has been pretty successful with his takedowns, which is pretty weird because he's coming out of Australia. He had that performance against Brendan Allen, very close fight. You could argue he won, but he is coming off a 2-year layoff here, which is pretty bad, and he's also coming off a very bad injury, which I don't like to hear. But I do think he is better than Torres Finney, though Torres Finney is a very strong grappler, so this could actually be one of those fights where the grappling cancels out and it's mainly a striking match, and that's going to be a tough one to call because both of them are so uncomfortable and awkward on the feet. But I am going to pick Jacob Malkoun here. I think he's a better grappler. Torres Finney, we've seen in his last fight against Robert Valentin, he got his takedowns and he still nearly lost that fight. He just doesn't do any damage, and yeah, he doesn't have the experience here either. Look, he could definitely go out here and beat Malkoun, who is coming off a very bad injury and a long layoff, but I'm going to have to lean towards Jacob Malkoun. Next, we got Cameron Royston versus Cody Brundage. Give me Cam Royston here to get this one done. I'm going to take him by another round 1 KO here. Cam Royston has been on a tear in the Dana White Contender Series in the UFC, getting 2 back-to-back KOs. But to be honest, this guy is more of a grappler. If you watch his fights before the UFC, he has pretty crafty takedowns. He's a very untraditional grappler, very awkward with his grappling, but he can have a good ability to get the back, land submissions. And I think Cody Brundage is probably the better wrestler in this fight. But I think if the fight hits the ground, Cam Royston's going to be the one reversing position, threatening with submissions as well. And on the feet, Cody Brundage, he's a bit of a loose cannon on the feet. I mean, there's times where he just quits out there, gets finished. But there's also times where he will throw bombs and he'll just say, he just won't care and just start exchanging. We saw that in the Julian Marquez fight. And he does that sometimes, but other times he's just willing to be on the back foot and just quit. He's like the most unpredictable fighter in the UFC, but ultimately he isn't very good here. Could I see him landing a bomb on Cam Royston? I can. Royston is very slow. That is one thing I like to mention. While he has been having success, he is very slow on the feet. He does leave some defensive openings in his boxing. I went back and watched one of his Eternal MMA fights against Blair Breitag or something, I think, and he was getting tagged up on the feet. So if Cody Brundage could land a big shot here, he could put out Cam Royston, but ultimately I'm not going to trust in Cody Brundage. I'm going to trust in the momentum of Cam Royston, who is looking better and better in each fight, and I think he gets this one done by knockout in round 1. Next, we got Junior Tafa versus Billy Elikana. Now, I'm going to pick Billy Elikana to win here. I think this is a pretty simple one, and you just can't be picking Junior Tafa in this matchup. Now, Junior Tafa does have power. He can potentially knock out Elikana, but to be honest, who has he really knocked out in the UFC? He has one knockout against Parker Porter, and then a really sloppy TKO against Sean Sharif. That's all he's done in the UFC. Billy Elikana here, he should be able to take down Junior Tafa, whose grappling just continues to look horrible. Against Tuco Tucos, he was getting taken down with ease and got finished, and Tuco Tucos is not a high-level fighter. We've seen Elikana, he got a submission in his last fight after dropping his opponent and landed that rear naked choke, and we also saw him take the back of Bogdan Guskov. And that is pretty impressive in hindsight, considering Guskov has had quite a lot of success. He took him down, got the back, and he looked pretty good with his BJJ and held him there for about 3 to 4 minutes in the first round on very short notice. Ultimately, he did end up quitting in that fight, but he took it up a weight class on like 3 or 4 days' notice. And then he also has a win over Ibo Arslan. That was a very boring fight, but he did show some good composure, some good skill, and being able to beat Ibo Arslan by decision at pointing him on the feet isn't a horrible look. I don't think Junior Tafa could probably do that. So in this fight here, I think Billy Elikana has the striking advantage if it goes long. He probably doesn't have the power advantage, but he has the cardio advantage. He definitely has the grappling advantage. And I think if he takes Junior Tafa down, which I do think he will, I think he's going to submit him. We've seen it time and time again. The Tafa bros get submitted on the ground. I don't even know if these guys train at an MMA gym. I'm pretty sure they train at a kickboxing gym in Brisbane, which shows you what kind of level fighters and how serious they are about their career. But give me Billy Elikana here to get this one by submission. I'm going to say he gets it done in round 2, and I'm pretty confident in that pick. Next, we got Quillan Salkid versus Jamie Mullarkey. This is a pretty easy one. Give me Quillan Salkid to get this one done by round 1 knockout. Jamie Mullarkey has been very chinny in his last fights. He is a UFC veteran, but he didn't look good in his last fight. Salkid is taking a huge step down in competition, and he's the one that's the up-and-comer here, taking a massive step down. He's coming off that very impressive knockout against Hasbrat, and he showed different layers to his game. He has the decision wins over Yanal Ashmoz, Gage Young, where he showed his grappling to be pretty good, being able to control his opponents. Then he also has the 2 KOs over Hasbrat and Anshul Jubli. I think he's just going to be better anywhere this fight goes against Jamie Mullarkey, but I think the most likely outcome is going to be Salkid to knock him out in round 1. We've seen Jamie Mullarkey get finished in round 1 before, and his chin's not getting any better, he's not getting any younger, so I expect Salkid to do the same here. And he's probably my most confident pick on the entire card, but he's a minus 1,000 favorite right now, which is absolutely insane. Next, we got Talison Teixeira versus Tai Tuivasa. I'm going to pick Talison Teixeira in this matchup by round 1 knockout, but I'm not confident in it. I think Talison Teixeira has proven absolutely nothing. He has 1 win over Justin Tafa, and other than that, he's just been fighting cans. The first step up he takes in competition against Derek Lewis, he gets finished. And if you go back and watch his Dana White Contender Series fight and just a lot of his fights, as a tall guy, his defense is not there. His chin is up in the air. And if we get a good version of Tai Tuivasa, I could see him actually catching Talison Teixeira, and I could honestly see him knocking out But the reality is Tai Tuivasa is coming off a 1.5 year layoff. He was extremely overweight in the photos before this fight. He has seemed to trim down, but you just can't pick a guy that's that undisciplined about their career. And he is also coming off a 5-fight losing streak. And Towson Teixeira, he is unproven, but he is athletic, he is powerful, and just the most likely scenario here is Tai Tuivasa is going to have a bit of ring rust. Towson Teixeira is going to come in here, be way more athletic, be able to find Tai Tuivasa and be able to finish him in round 1. Though, I definitely do not see any value on Towson Teixeira, who is unproven, and I would say the value is probably on Tai Tuivasa. And also, if you look at the 5-fight losing streak, it is a bit deceiving in my opinion. People bring that up and to say he's like some complete trash can. Look at the names it's against. Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich. Like, these are pretty high-level guys. Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Like, even the best version of Tai Tuivasa just can't compete with these guys skill for skill. And these are the top-level heavyweights. So I do think that losing streak is a bit exaggerated. And I do think he has a better chance than a lot of people are giving him if this is a good version of himself. But having said that, he could show up here looking like absolute trash. Though, all that being said, I will pick Towson Teixeira to get this one done here. Now we got Marcio Ruffi versus Rafael Fiziev. This is an interesting fight, a close one. I'm going to pick Fiziev in this matchup. Now, Rafael Fiziev is currently an underdog, and that is pretty surprising to me because Ruffi is coming off a very bad performance where he got dominated by BSD, and Fiziev is coming up with a performance against Ignacio Bahamondes where he looked pretty good and was able to win a 30-27 decision. Also, in this fight, Ruffi is very unproven. His one win is against Bobby Green, that's his best win, and other than that, it's against very low-level fighters. Meanwhile, Fiziev has actually fought very high-level fighters. He's fought Justin Gaethje twice, went to war with him, which that loss is aging better and better. He's fought Bahamondes, Mateus Gamrot, Rafael dos Anjos, Renato Moicano. So Fiziev definitely has the experience advantage in this fight. And he's also the one with the momentum in this fight. So how I see this fight going, I think the striking is going to be very patient. Ruffi is a very hard hitter, very unorthodox, and he's a counter striker. And you have to be patient against Ruffi. You can't overextend or you're going to get knocked out. He is a very, very dangerous striker. But Fiziev doesn't usually overextend. He's a very technical striker. He has high striking fight IQ. And I don't think he's going to engage in the pocket or give Ruffi very much reads on the feet. And I think Ruffi, I know Fiziev is known to have bad cardio, but Ruffi has shown to slow down in a lot of his fights, in that James Luntop fight, in that Benoit Saint-Denis fight. So I think Fiziev will actually have the cardio advantage, and he showed some pretty good IQ as the fight went on, mixing in the takedowns against Bahamondes. And I think if this is a close fight on the feet, which I think it will be, I think Fiziev can actually mix in some takedowns. I'm not going to say he's going to do what Benoit Saint-Denis does, but even just giving that look could disrupt Ruffi's rhythm, and I think he could get some takedowns in this matchup here as well. So my pick is going to be Fiziev by decision. Now, if someone's going to get a knockout, I definitely think it's Ruffi here. I don't think Fiziev is going to knock out Ruffi. I think his power is pretty overrated. He hasn't got a knockout in a very long time, and he's definitely more of a decision-style fighter. Ruffi here, Fiziev is pretty stationary. While he does have pretty good defense, he is pretty flat-footed at times, especially as the fight goes on. He can be pretty hittable, and that is dangerous against Ruffi. I think if Ruffi can find a read, can find his timing and range, there is a pretty good chance he could knock out Fiziev here. So this is a very close fight. Not my most confident pick, but I am going to take Fiziev here as an underdog, which I am a little bit surprised about. Next, we have Benoit Saint-Denis versus Dan Hooker. And I'm going to pick Benoit Saint-Denis to get this one done by submission in round 2. Now, I went into the tape here a little bit biased to thinking, wow, Dan Hooker is a plus 250 underdog. This ain't no Arman Tsarukyan. He can do pretty good in this fight. But after watching the tape, I am going to pick Benoit Saint-Denis here, and I think he is the side to be on. Dan Hooker in that Arman Tsarukyan fight, he did get dominated by the grappling, but we know how high-level Arman is. But also on the feet, he was kind of getting outstruck pretty badly by Arman. And in the fight before that, that was the Gamrot fight. He looked pretty good in there. But even on the feet in that fight, he was in a very close fight on the feet with Mateus Gamrot as well. So Benoit Saint-Denis, he's coming off the best year of his career. 3 very good performances, and he has all the momentum here. I think in this fight, it's Benoit Saint-Denis riding all the momentum against Dan Hooker, who is well and truly on the downhill. I think this is going to be the worst version of Dan Hooker that we've ever seen. And I think Benoit Saint-Denis, he might actually struggle to get takedowns, sir. And because this is not Arman, Dan Hooker was able to stuff a lot of Gamrot's takedowns. He will threaten with the guillotine submission, so he might struggle to get takedowns here early. But ultimately, I think when he pressures forward and he is relentless with the takedowns, when he mixes it up with his striking, he will get Dan Hooker down here. And when he gets Dan Hooker down, I think he's going to be able to land shots. I think he's going to be able to control him, put him in bad positions. And after controlling him and landing shots in round 1, I see him getting a submission here in round 2. Now, I do understand the Dan Hooker as an underdog side if you're thinking that because he did beat Gamrot, this isn't Arman. And if he can start to stuff some takedowns, keep this fight on the feet, land some shots, walk forward. We've seen Benoit Saint-Denis get fatigued against Aleski dos Santos, against Dustin Poirier. And if Dan Hooker can stay in the fight, land his shots, walk him down, there is definitely a path to victory for him here. And he is a very big underdog. But ultimately, give me the younger guy with a clear grappling advantage. And honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if he had strikes Dan Hooker in this fight. So give me Benoit Saint-Denis in this matchup. Next, we got Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. And this is a very intriguing fight. It's a rematch, but I'm going to pick Volkanovski here to get it done by decision. And to be honest, I know rematches ultimately a lot of the time go very different to the first fight. I don't think that this is the case here. I think Diego Lopes, in that fight, we saw him, he wasn't really able, besides the big moments, he wasn't really able to land much on Volk. And Volk was able to land the jab, land the leg kicks, and really outpoint him at range consistently in that fight. And I think Diego Lopes, not much has changed since that first fight. He did get a really impressive win against Gene Silva. But let's not forget that Gene Silva was landing very consistently on him. He was landing flush on the chin of Diego Lopes, and he didn't show any improvements with his defense, any improvements with his head movement, but he did get a crazy KO. Now, that doesn't really change much into this fight against Volkanovski. Yes, Volkanovski is older. He isn't going to be any better, but I think what this fight is going to be, Diego Lopes has to get Volk out there. And could he do it? Absolutely. I think there's a decent chance that Diego Lopes could knock him out. He nearly done it in that first fight. But are you really going to rely on a puncher's chance here after we've seen 25 minutes of the first fight? One thing, I think the most likely outcome here is Volk lands the jab, lands the leg kicks, moves out at range. He's able to pick up. He's been in there with Diego Lopes for 25 minutes. So he knows the power. He knows how to avoid the shots. And I'm going to trust in the fight IQ of Volkanovski. I think also he was able to take him down in round 1 and land really good damage. I think Volk could maybe have more success with the grappling in this fight. I think he's going to mix up the grappling. He's going to land the volume on the feet. And I think he's going to win by decision. And I think that is just the most likely outcome in this fight. Now, if Volkanovski comes out here looking totally regressed, then yeah, Diego Lopes is probably going to finish him in this fight. But I'm going to trust Volkanovski. I know he's old, and I know Diego Lopes is coming off a crazy performance, but not enough has changed since the first fight for me to change my prediction here. I think Volkanovski gets this one done by decision. Let me know what you guys think about my picks in the comments down below. And remember, if you want all of my bets, click the links in the bio, the free Discord. I'm going to be uploading a couple bets there. And my premium Discord, that's where you get all of my bets for the best bets in the game. You want bets for UFC 325 for the full card and you want to start profiting, then that's where you want to go. And also my beast bet of the week, which is my largest free play, will be posted here on YouTube later this week. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be episode 1, which we're going to be doing for the entire year.